Today is Saturday, August 27th, 2011, and this is Chapter 4 of So Long and Thanks for All the Ponies by Sir Ginger. Because I'm the amazing colt that I am, and because I have been recording the past two chapters and have no intention of stopping, and because I was playing the great and powerful Trixie in last night's D&D game, except in pseudo-dragon male form, I don't even want to call it the great and powerful Trixie. I played the sagely, industrious, incomparable Ben. Love Ben. But anyways, because Voste Sueños is the amazing colt that he is, and has begun speaking in third person because he spent far too much time pretending to be Ben, he will be gracing you. Alright, that's enough. I'm nowhere near that arrogant in real life. But, because I have been enjoying this fic so much, I will be continuing, and although I was planning on doing roughly a fic a week, or a chapter a week, depending, I am going to go through this one a whole lot faster, and hopefully I'll be able to post maybe every other day until the end of the week. That is my goal right now, so that I can give you wonderful, wonderful ponies out there in the magical land of what we so sadly refer to as not Equestria. I will be giving you as much as possible as soon as possible, and that way I can keep up with Sir Ginger, who seems to be writing this very quickly. Alright, back to the fic! Democracy had never really been considered as a political practice in Equestria. Celestia was basically a benevolent ruler, and she was certainly willing to be guided by other ponies. But at the end of the day, any elected official would have to be able to demonstrate the power to raise the sun and moon every day, and keep life on the planet from ending forever. This is a fairly effective barrier to any candidate, as no pony, regardless of political belief, is going to consider the "let everything on the planet die" party. Quite why Celestia bothers with the Obey campaign posters is a question probably best left unanswered. The galaxy as a whole is not a democracy either, but for very different reasons. Although theoretically the president makes all the major decisions, he, she, shkli, or it wields no real power. The job of the president is simply to exist, and to do so in as noticeable a way as possible, so that the question of there being a higher authority simply never comes up, or at least is never closer to the front page than the president's latest shenanigans. Zaphod Beeblebrox, kleptomaniac, rabid partygoer, and worst-dressed sentient being this side of the universe, is perhaps the best candidate there has ever been for this role. His notoriety was staggering, and his presence had further reduced the status of the political system to little more than a soap opera. Sealing a government-funded experimental ship with trillions of dollars was barely bigger news than his last party. As Pinky laid the description before the stunned ponies before her, she felt more than a little uneasy. It took a long time to explain precisely who he was, and her friend's expressions were getting more concerned by the second. She couldn't think of any anecdote which suggested being with Zaphod was a safe prospect, and though she was confident that he would do a lot more to please a pretty filly, somehow she felt this wouldn't actually comfort them much. She scanned her memories for something that suggested he was, in any way, a dependable pony. That time they had ended up having to spend the whole night suspended from a bridge directly over the Fallian marshes, right in the dissociative fumes. He had probably saved her life then, if only by telling her that those hoopy-looking balloons she had wanted to jump right into were actually totally not good things to jump right into, baby. No, that wouldn't do. She had met Zaphod, 10 or so years before going to Equestria, and had impressed him with her ability to drink 3 Pangalactic Gargle Blasters with only a short stay in the HICPGGB, Hospital for the Idiots Who Consume Pangalactic Gargle Blasters. They had been friends for a year or two before he began his campaign for presidency. "And that's why you have to have these fish in your ears!" she cried triumphantly, holding up a jar which she had apparently produced from nowhere. Twilight blinked, and Applejack face-toofed. Spike was long since asleep in the back. "Sugar Cube, either I just missed a dang long bit of vital explanation, or you just made no sense." Pinky reined in her mind, which had a tendency to move at a faster rate than her mouth could keep up with. Her mental faculties were always champing at the bit, and it was all too easy to let them loose and watch them wreak havoc on the comprehension of every pony nearby. "I think you girls need to look up babelfish in this." She held up a small, flat panel of metal, on which were embossed in large, friendly letters, "Don't Panic." Pinkie Pie unfolded it, revealing a dark screen, on which the Hitchhiker thumb logo flashed on the screen for 1 second before being replaced by the index. "What is it?" Applejack was staring at the first few articles. Ab. What in the hay is it doing? Pinky poked at the screen once or twice, and found the required entry in a couple of seconds. "And how did you do that?" "It was under B." In a crisp, dry, paternal sort of voice, the guide began to speak out as a detailed animation played out and its words scrolled. It was a trustworthy voice, like that of a young but stuffy magic teacher Twilight had once had. It spoke in a measured, reassuring tone, each word reminding the listener of what those large, friendly letters had said. "The babelfish is small, yellow, and leech-like, probably the oddest thing in the universe." Zaphod had regained his seat, and gained another drink. This was another of his own concoctions, which he drank whenever he felt that he needed to drink socially and stay relatively sober. It was still slowly dissolving the cherry floating inside, but at least it wasn't giving off a glowing vapor. "Eddie, send the robot down to pick him up. I'm keen to meet those lovely young fillies." "Sorry there, El Presidente. He's still down there in the lower decks. You sent him to arrange your cocktail olives by size and shape, and he's just opened crate 4. Belgium! I forgot that. I thought it seemed a little more hip and happy around here." He winked roguishly. "How's he doing?" "He's on his 3rd poem about how depressing life is." "I'll just leave him to his fun. Just open all the doors between here and there. Let them figure it out." He stretched and spent the next few minutes carefully arranging himself specifically so that then the 3 ponies stepped cautiously through the door. His entire posture gave an impression of nonchalance, save a flair and just a hint of latent sexuality. He had used such a pose on about half of his campaign posters. "Ladies, glad you could drop in. He paused for effect, am Zaphod Beeblebrox." He lowered the glasses on his right head, the behorned one, and flashed his bright green eyes at them. "So what?" Rainbow was immediately put on guard by this pony. The way he sat was so possessive, like he was the best damned pony around. Even the previously unnoticed second head, turned to face her in surprise, didn't give her pause. She was the pony who owned the show. She was the one who acted like they all owned the place, and she was going to let him know it. "I don't care what your name is, Zathod, whatever the hell it was. You better tell me what is going on here, and who you really are right now." Zaphod closed his mouth. The possibility of any pony not knowing who he was, honestly, had never occurred to him, even in his darkest nightmare, where some pony had been slightly unimpressed by him. He decided to file this colt's ignorance under anomalous and move on. He wasn't interested in him anyway. He put on his most refined mode of speech. "Ladies, please, tell this doubtlessly fruity stallion to go chill out a bit." "Oh my." Fluttershy saw where this was going. Apoplectic with fury, Dash made a leap forwards, knocking Zaphod off his chair. "What did you just call me?" Zaphod was determined to play this off as cool. He lounged on the floor now, in a slightly different pose to the one before, as if he had meant to fall this way. "Frosty cool, bro. Fruity is a hoopy thing to be." "You just called me a stallion!" Dash was nose to nose with one of his faces. Zaphod blinked and looked again. Up close, with the sobering effect of a hefty blow, he saw his mistake. Oh, Belgium. It was time for diplomacy, especially as he now thought about it. There was something to be said for a feisty filly, both able and willing to tackle a larger pony. He climbed to his feet, and, levitating yet another drink from a tray, he adopted an air of offended patience and fatigue. "I can't help it if you fillies can't talk the talk. Only meant it as a compliment. I like a filly to do a thing with a man's style." Without seeming to move, he was slumped in a sofa and gestured towards the drink tray. "May I tempt you, ladies?" This was pose number 48, conciliatory and generous. He had used this one in apology addresses. Rarity had been struck dumb, appalled throughout the above exchange. This pony, this unicorn, this two-headed unicorn, two-headed bicorn, was wearing something similar to an outfit she had drawn up once while suffering from a heavy fever. It had no symmetry, no complementary colors, nothing that objectively should ever please the eye, but something in her mind clicked with it. She walked past the grumbling Dash to take a drink and deigned to give him the luxury of a haughty glance. Rainbow drew herself up and stalked to the sofa opposite the strange colt. Fluttershy hurried next to her, as if seeking protection. "I think we should start again," Rarity said in her best socialite voice. "Mr. Zaphod grinned. He had talked his way back into favor, and now it was 3 fillies and one, well, technically, him. Hell, it was almost a party. Somewhere else entirely, a brownish-yellow escape pod at last managed to dock at Bernard's star-orbiting station. The door opened and a procession walked out into the arrivals. A pink pony strutted out in front, a towel balanced across her neck. Following her was a worn-out-looking unicorn, a baby dragon balanced across hers. Bringing up the rear with nothing but her ponytail, balancing across hers was a Stetson-hatted pony, who looked around her with suspicion. Bernard's Star, as the Hitchhiker's Guide is quick to point out, was a beautiful place. The station orbits the star, perched on a ball of artificially pure crystal, larger than many worlds. As it orbits, the reddish-white light of its parent star is refracted through millions of spires of ice that spear the surface of the planet, and even at night, the ground seems to glow dull red. The station itself was almost entirely clear, and so, as the sun set, lances of reddening light seemed to dance through the entire structure, reflecting off millions of surfaces at once. It was, non-technically speaking, a magical place. Naturally, this piece of architectural and planetary design brilliance attracted adoration, and this attracted tourism, which attracted business. Now, the views are spoilt by thousands of shops for tourist tat, large shipfuls of overweight lifeforms with cameras, and occasionally entire fleets docking there between hyperspace leaps. In this way, Bernard's orbiting star station evolved from being a wonder of the galaxy to being one of the largest hyperspace express junctions in the history of creation. Such is life. And that was Chapter 4 of So Long and Thanks for All the Ponies by Sir Ginger. Hope to see you around soon. I'm Voste Sueños, and Chapter 5 is coming.